Hello, I'm Dr. Hutchings, Superintendent of Schools here in Alexandria City Public Schools. I hope that you all are here for the right thing tonight, right? Tonight is the Patrick Henry Community Meeting. So that is what we're here to discuss. And what we're hoping to talk about today is that to give everybody an update as to where we are. One thing that we do know is that the board approved for us, meaning the school administration, to begin to pursue using the old Patrick Henry as swing space for Douglas MacArthur. And we're calling this project Douglas MacArthur at Taney Avenue. So that is to distinguish the difference of the old Patrick Henry and Patrick Henry Elementary School. But today we will be able to share with you information from our architects. We also have information from our facilities office to give you all some updates and to let you know what some things moving forward, some important milestones as well as important dates moving forward for you all to get these updates throughout the next few months. So we have a lot going on, you know, in regards to this project. One, I do want to just thank you on behalf of Alexandria City Public Schools for the cooperation that you all are giving us. I know that the next couple of years we are going to be embarking on something that we weren't planning to do about a year ago, right? So this is all going to be a new venture for all of us. And, you know, we have not had a situation where we've had two schools on one lot, right? So that's a new thing for Alexandria City Public Schools, too. And that's why it's going to be so important for us to have these community updates, to have opportunities to collaborate with not only Douglas MacArthur and Patrick Henry, but also the Polk elementary community and our civic associations in this area, so that it's clear communication and clear understandings around how we're moving forward, so there are no surprises, you know. Now, we might have a surprise every once in a while, folks, because you know when you're digging something or things can happen, but the goal is not to have any major surprises in regards to things that we could have avoided. So I want to turn things over to our Chief Operating Officer, Ms. Mignon Anthony, to introduce the next speaker, or is it actually Erica Gulick? But they need to see you, Ms. Anthony. So come on up, Ms. Anthony, and then we can continue on with our agenda for today. I do want to just tell you all in advance, I am headed out to go over to the Alexandria Scholarship Fund gala, or not gala, but award ceremony, to introduce one of our awards to our students. So that is the only reason that I'm leaving early tonight. So I'm going to be headed over to T.C. Williams to do that. So I will be stepping out, but you are in great hands with our COO as well as our architects. And we have a few of our board members here, or two of our board members that I see right now, Dr. Michelle Reif and Miss Heather Thornton, who are here. And then we also have our city councilwoman. Of course, everybody knows Del Pepper, the queen of city council. So I'm going to turn things over to Miss Anthony so that we can continue on with the agenda.
Thank you, Dr. Hutchings. Okay, everybody. So wanted to make sure that you had an information update on the site. The actual playgrounds along Latham Street will be finished in September. So we wanted to make sure everybody understood that they are continuing, they'll be complete, and they will open when school opens. The old Patrick Henry, which we've dubbed Douglas MacArthur at Taney Avenue, will be demolishing the old gym in June of 2019. So that's like later this month. And then also during the summer, we will be involved with completing a site plan and a building design. Those things are in progress now. And we'll be hearing from the architects and the traffic planners in just a few minutes. The site name, as we said, is Douglas MacArthur Taney Avenue. The traffic study by Wells and Associates, they'll be addressing in a minute exactly the approach they're taking with the traffic study and the types of things they're looking at and how they'll work with the city on ensuring that we have all of the data and information that many of you have been concerned about as we're doing a dual campus and sharing two schools on the same campus. The building renovation design and the site design are both being conducted by Mosley and Associates, who were the architects who designed this school. And so they're very familiar with the site, extremely familiar with the condition of the old building, and so that work has just gotten started. The Development Special Use Permit, the DSUP amendment, that means that there was an original one when the building and the site was designed several years ago. We have to amend it in order to request permission and a permit to continue using it with both schools on the same site. So that amendment has to go before the city and to city council. We're trying to get it done in November so that we can get a permit to do the construction on the rest of the site, to renovate it, and we'll be hopefully coming back to the community before the end of the summer to show you what the site design plan is that will be moving forward. So here is the timeline. The timeline shows, again, the green on the top, the preparation of the old Patrick Henry for MacArthur shows the outdoor play areas and basketball court available for Patrick Henry use in the fall. The old rec center being demolished. In the fall of 2020, having the outdoor play areas ready for the Douglas MacArthur students to have ready, and that in the fall of 2020, Douglas MacArthur students starting school on the site at Douglas MacArthur and Taney Avenue. Along the bottom are the school board vote, which was in April of 19, the fall vote where City Council will again review the amendment and review the entire plans for the occupancy, and then in spring of 2020, they have to review the design of the building, and they have to give us another a review of the actual MacArthur design for the new Douglas MacArthur. We're going to start that process in this summer as well. Construction of the new Douglas MacArthur will go between 2020 and 2022 with the intent that the students with MacArthur will only stay here on the campus until the winter of 2022, move over winter break. That's the plan right now. And all of the decisions that are being made by the city to review the development special use project, permit rather, will be on the condition that the students are staying in the building no more than 24 to 30 months at the very most. And so the idea is that they move out of the building, and then we will pursue in that next summer, reverting back to the original plan for the rest of the site, demolishing the old Patrick Henry. So that is the plan.
Question about demolishing the gymnasium. Where are the students who are at MacArthur going to take physical education?
So we're going to talk about that in just a second, because we have our architect here who's going to talk about the approach she's using for the old Patrick Henry in terms of the approach for that. But first, we're going to hear from Wells and Associates. We're going to hear about the approach that they're using to update the discussion and take some questions on the traffic and the site plan, that study first. So.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. My name is Mike Warkowski, and this is Grady Vaughn. We're with Wells and Associates. We're the traffic engineers that are currently preparing the study for the swing space. We prepared the original study for this renovation that's going on now here that was back in 2017. And so we're going through that, a similar process to evaluate the swing space. As was mentioned, having two schools sort of on the same campus is a bit of a challenge, so we're working through those things. Where we are at the moment, and we can talk about our approach, so we collected traffic count data in May here at the intersections around the school, a total of 10 intersections that we looked at. We also evaluated and observed queuing, drop-off, pickup, pedestrian, cyclists at all the intersections around the school. So that really gives us sort of the baseline conditions that we're working under, since the conditions back in 2016 or so when we did the original study changed as the school has been updated. So we've gone back out and collected that information. We're in the midst of sort of tabulating it, evaluating it, and what have you. So We also made some observations at the Douglas MacArthur School. So we looked at things like queuing operations and such. The idea being that when we determine, as we determine how the traffic patterns will change, and the additional traffic that we'll have from the Douglas MacArthur School, we'll evaluate things like the number of students that they'll have, the number of buses that they'll provide, in comparison to what they're currently providing, in order for us to have a really good handle on the number of vehicles and such that we have to manage. And it will also look at things like the start and stop times of the schools, because that's very important. So we look at the morning peak hour, and so we look at 1 hour in the morning. That generally coincides with the school peak time, which is somewhat compressed, but it is part of the analysis. And then we look at the afternoon peak hour, so that's when school is letting out and such. And then we usually take a look at the evening peak hour, so not as much activity, but that is when the commuter peak time occurs. So we'll look at the existing traffic which we've collected, then we'll add in the traffic that the relocation of the reuse of the space will generate, and other development that may be in the area or growth in traffic over time, and then we'll reevaluate those intersections. And we'll also, as we did in the original study, we'll focus in on drop-off pickup activity, queuing, number of queuing spaces, how buses will work, pedestrians and pedestrian safety, so all crossings and routes to and from school and those various factors. So, this is, we're going to do some listening tonight, so we'll be here obviously afterwards, but we want to hear from people any specific items that they have. Since we've done this once with the current school, we sort of know what to look for. We can compare the traffic volumes and operations and those kinds of things, and that will help give us a handle on what we can predict in the future. And then from those predictions, we'll be able to make some recommendations as an example of how school times should work. How much time do we need between those start and stop times in order to minimize the conflicts and be able to manage traffic, in an acceptable way. We also work with the city through the process, so we coordinate with the city on the scope of the study, the number of intersections, time periods, and those sorts of things. And then we also work with them addressing comments and those kinds of things that they may have on our study. So that's sort of where we are at the moment, and we look forward to hearing from all of you and working with you as we go forward. So I guess, do we want to have questions, or do we want to keep going? Sure. I think.
Which intersections were you looking at for the study for kids crossings and everything that for kids?
Primarily all the intersections that are right in the proximity of the school. We do have some kind of outlying intersections. We have a map that we can show you, but they're really focused all around this, pretty much around the school itself, to really know how those intersections operate and work in those hours.
One of the things we have in this unique situation will be 3 elementary schools.
I can't hear you. Can you hand it here?
Sure.
Thank you. One of the things we'll have in this unique situation is the opportunity to have 3 elementary schools in about a 4-block radius. Are you also looking at the traffic patterns that might be impacted for those 3 schools?
So,
Mike, could you repeat your question?
yeah, is this one working? Okay. The question was, there are other elementary schools in close proximity, and will they be taken into account? I think since they are in operation and were when we collected our traffic counts, that underlying traffic is on the network, so they've been accounted for in the counts that we've collected. So I think the answer is yes. They, yes, sir.
One of the issues is the students who attend MacArthur will have to travel down Jordan Street, which is the main intersection where you have most of your traffic, because they're basically being bussed in. So the traffic study stuff, it doesn't really matter about the kids who will be walking. Plus, this is also a middle school. So you have a middle school population here. As I stated before, the traffic study is fine, but it's required by law that you have the physical education component. So if you're starting with demolishing the gymnasium, where are the kids going to take health and physical education? Are they going to walk across to the rec department and utilize their space? Because
I'm sorry, I can't answer that one.
Yeah.
we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yeah.
Because the kids on buses. And by the way, I love the design that you all used.
So I'm going to answer your question. So you let him
Yeah,
go on and I'll.
but the traffic thing with the whole roundabout in front of the school right now will work perfectly fine.
No, well, can I make a comment? I'm a parent of a Patrick Henry student.
Here, wait,
Before,
I'm gonna bring it in.
the kids walking in this area before the new school was a nightmare. I stopped walking my child after 6 months because I wanted to keep my legs. Are you going to take into account, you know, the increased traffic with people who live in Box Chase? You know, it changes, you know, there's different buses. I just think there's a lot of things you have to take into account with the traffic study. Before, when my child started, we were told that, you know, the Taney and Howard intersection wasn't a problem. You know, we didn't need another crossing guard there. But my experience walking there, that was the worst intersection to encounter every day. So is that going to be looked into? Are you also going to look into, you know, it seems like there's a problem with maintaining crossing guards. Like, they may not have the right amount of crossing guards that we need because they can't maintain them and hire people who want to do that job. So is that taken into account too?
Yeah, so I can't answer the question about maintaining them, but whenever we collect the information, we know, you know, where crossing guards are and such, and we also look at the number of persons that cross, so we know sort of where those maximum points are. And then there may be places where we think we need more crossing guards, and then, you know, that's a recommendation that comes out of the study. How they're actually put out there is really, you know, up to the school, but those are things that we look at when we collect the information and make those recommendations.
I'll add to that too, that the crossing guards are managed by the police department, and we know that it is a problem to maintain the crossing guards, and so we are working with them on how do we fix that, what's the solution for that in the future.
Hi, I'm Crystal Merlino. I have 3 kids at Douglas MacArthur, sitting here. So could you please go through your presentation? What is the approach? What are the updates? What is the discussion? What are the priorities? How is the city and ACPS working together? Is there going to be a police presence? I'm not hearing any of that in what you're saying. We were told in a couple of meetings that the traffic study would include the city and ACPC working together on this study, that they were looking at Latham, Jordan, Howard, Jordan, Taney, these dangerous intersections. So I would like to hear some of that detail. If it's in the old study, please share that and let us know how you plan to move forward working with the city, the school district, ACPC, and
Sure.
answer these bullets that you have.
Sure. Well, I think, you know, as I started off, we do work jointly with the city on the scope of the study and the intersections. We identify the times and such that we do the counts and the methodology that we use as we go through the analysis. So we did collect traffic counts at a number of those intersections, 10 intersections in total. We also observed pedestrians, cyclists, and queuing around the school, drop-off, pickup. So as we go forward, We do work with the city and the school because we need to know the details, for example, of how buses may change from Douglas MacArthur, so how that may influence driving, number of vehicles and those sorts of things. We also confirm things like if we have a growth rate or if there's other development that we need to account for. So those things do go jointly together as we do the study. So I think that really is the approach. I mean, it's a standard approach that we used in 2017 that the city follows also. So we do work hand in hand with them to do that. And what shakes out of that are a number of the recommendations as we look at these intersections, how they operate. So we evaluate the capacity of intersections, and that's based on the number of lanes and the control. So stop-controlled intersections, we have ways to evaluate the delay at those intersections, and that tells us whether or not they're in acceptable ranges or not. That also tells us whether or not there are any improvements to be made or what those improvements might be that we would consider at those locations. And I think as I just mentioned, we also look at locations where current crossing guards exist, where the heaviest crossings are for the school patterns. So when we collect the traffic information, we also make observations out in the field, so we note, queuing and pedestrians and kids walking, those kinds of things, and that shakes out in the recommendations as to where or if those need to be changed or not. That is kind of the typical process that we go through to complete the study, which is the same process we followed in 2017.
So how will those updates be provided to the community?
Well, I think there are more meetings like this that are going to happen throughout the process. And so, I guess there will probably be an update at one of these meetings as we get through the analysis, which I would think would be in the next, month or two, given the timeline. So I think we would be probably in August, I think, is when we would have our sort of initial study complete.
Just a quick question. When will the traffic study conclude?
I think we'll have our analysis done in August. That's when I think it will happen.
Will there be another traffic study after the school actually opens, or that document is going to be used for?
That's usually the end of from the study perspective. That once things get in operation, there are some tweaks that can be made, crossing guards and those kinds of things. But we really use the study to sort of identify how things will work and implement them, and then you actually have to see how it works.
To add to that, the counts were performed during the school year.
They were a month ago.
Yeah, so you're going to check the intersections for like pedestrians and everything, and where they have the highest concentrations, where you can recommend like changing out the crosswalks maybe to the high visibility type flashers and everything, or?
I mean, again, it depends on those locations and each one specifically, like especially obviously right around the school where you have lots of lockers. We look at things where the curb ramps and pedestrian ramps, are located to make sure that those things are in place. So it kind of includes all of those things.
Okay. And then the other thing was I was mentioning to Mr. Mosley about the architect from Mosley, about the entranceway and putting a sidewalk down the far side of the property, the east edge of the property, to allow the kids to come up instead of having to walk across the current driveway and then walk up. And once they put the new road around, they'll have to cross it again to get to the school. And just having another entranceway. So maybe doing some study around how to manage that entrance?
Well, I mean, we've made a note of your comment. We'll have to see what's possible and not possible given the land area constraints and those kinds of things. And also, having crossing guards and those kinds of things out there can help do that. But
crossing guards
challenge.
have to have a body on site to actually work. If you have a sidewalk that's already in place, it automatically allows them to.
Understood.
be safe.
I understand.
So where the teachers go to park? Instead.
I'll get to that.
Hi, I'm just wondering, like, how much time do you spend at each intersection? Is it a certain number of days? And do you count cars? Do you count people? What is that process?
Cars, people, bicycles. We pick a typical day during the week, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday. We count from 7, and Grady will tell me if I'm wrong, 7 till 10 in the morning, and then 2 to 7 in the evening. And what that allows us to do is to determine what we call the peak hour, and that occurs. So what we do is we record cars, people, cyclists in 15-minute intervals through that whole period. And we either do that through physical people, actually with counting boxes, or through cameras, and then we compile the information afterwards. And then we use that information to determine when those peak hours occur. So from an analysis perspective, we look at what we call the peak hour. Now, elementary schools and most schools, they have more of a compressed peak. So, it's usually more of a 30-minute window than it is a full hour. Whereas, for the commuter, as an example, that peak hour is really the full hour. But when it comes to schools, it's usually compressed. But we look at that peak hour, and that's how we figure it out.
So it's just one day at each location?
We try and do as many as we can on the same day because we want that situation. And then in this particular case, since we have counts from a couple of years ago, we can look at some common locations just to make sure that they make sense.
Okay, because I do know that some days of the week you have heavier traffic than others, you have weather issues that can affect traffic a lot.
That's why it's a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, because those are more of what we call an average day. Mondays and Fridays are not average days.
So my question is, emergencies just don't happen during peak hours. What if there's like a fire at 12 o'clock? How do you get the kids across the street? Do you study like what the traffic is during the daytime?
Not for that situation, you don't. I mean, that I think would be an evacuation plan that would be a standard for the school. That would be something.
But wouldn't that kind of also fall into traffic because they would have to cross the street and you would have to think about the different areas where the kids would go or down the street?
I'm probably not the right person to answer that question, but I would think that there's an emergency plan that the school has, so they have kids to go to certain areas and they know where to go in those situations.
Question about timing. So right now you did traffic flows and counts.
Correct.
We're in kind of a different pattern right now because we've still got construction traffic flows.
Right.
Does that change, say, next year when there's minimal construction, or even further down when there's no construction? Do you reanalyze, or are the same numbers still flowing?
I think we would use the numbers we have with the construction in it for the moment. I think because a lot of even though there are construction vehicles, a lot of them aren't in the peak hour. So they're not coming in and out for construction whenever the school peaks occur. So I think we have a pretty good baseline condition, but I understand, it's probably not a huge component, but it is a little bit different because of that.
But and do the flows change? Because cars may be coming in for drop-off in different locations after the construction?
Well, you mean when with the school being changed? Yes, it will, and we'll account for that also. We'll use the information and observations we made at the Douglas MacArthur School, and also what we know from Patrick Henry School, to be able to look at those and try and kind of separate out those locations so that we minimize the conflicts between the two.
So I guess I want to assure you that the planning that they're doing is in anticipation of what we need to build. And then I heard both of you asking about re-looking at later. We're going to have to, we'll do counts and we'll re-look at how it's working once we bring the children over and once we start to actually use the campus. I'm sure that this isn't going to be the end of us looking at how to make sure that we're ensuring that traffic is flowing well and that safety is a huge priority, but understanding what actually happens when it happens.
With all due respect, Patrick Henry, their drop-off for students on buses is back here. MacArthur will be up front. There's no issue with crossing any streets. As I pointed out to you, by the way, I love my design in front. Whoever took that design, I love it. There's no problem. 2 o'clock is dismissal. So can you focus on the 2 o'clock or the AM arrival and the 2:30, approximately 2:30 departure of buses from the front?
We'll have both of those, the morning and the afternoon.
Okay. Let's move to the building design planning.
One last thought on that.
Oh, sorry.
If in the process, if we could somehow, I know that there were some complaints with Patrick Henry before.
It didn't get recognized. So if we could somehow incorporate the process, some way to make issues known and make sure that they get flagged appropriately. So if someone says, hey, there's a big issue, a lot of parents say that, if we can somehow make sure that that gets the appropriate attention as opposed to, the ball got dropped over here because maybe it didn't get to the right person. So if we can include that, I think that would be helpful.
Do we think we know what all those are? Do we think we know that we have a list of what we think didn't get addressed? If anybody has any questions, you can send them to us. Let's make a list. And so, and look at them as well as doing their study now. And of course, as we move forward, to actual incorporate.
Well, shouldn't that be part of the study? To look at what is not working now? I mean, I'm sorry, but
I can't come up with a list of problems right now. I'm not a traffic expert, nor do I have time to stand at the corner and see what's going on. So is that not going to be a part of the study?
All I was asking for was make sure that we had it captured. That's what he was mentioning.
So
I think he was referring to previous, maybe potentially previous comments, not.
Well, I was,
but
so
I
we're
understand
getting this
what
new
you're
traffic
saying.
pattern next year or the year after. And a lot of parents recognize an issue.
Right.
Just make sure there's a mechanism by which their voice can be heard.
Well, maybe Ms. Bynum can answer that because you had to deal with this for many years as far as the traffic on 10 and coming to Jordan. So maybe you can enlighten us on how the parents from MacArthur and future students here, like my son, because we live right down the street, and we may choose to utilize our dual status of being zoned in either Patrick Henry and or MacArthur. And that's kids walk to school here. So maybe you can handle, how did you deal with the traffic stuff?
But that's why we hired Wells and Associates they're going to interview Ms. Bynum, they're going to interview everybody, they're going to watch the patterns, and they're going to make recommendations. So when they come back in August, we'll see with, of course, the site plans. We've got a couple, their recommendations with the impending site plan, and then talk about what their findings are, what their recommendations are, and how we need to address them. And then we're going to keep on, we're always going to be studying it, so. I don't know that she can add anything to what we've already said, Mr. Roberts.
Well, she had, how did you deal with it on the traffic study? That's what we're asking.
We're going to move to the building stuff now because we, send me your questions and you've got 20 minutes to head. I'm sure you've got a lot of questions with the building as well. So let's hear what we're doing with regard to the site design.
I'm Bill Brown with Mosley Architects, and we were the architects, and we had a civil engineer work with us on this project. We worked with Wells Associates, and it's a balance between what they study and what they see as the conditions, and then we explore what actually can fit on the site and what's a good configuration. And when we talk about priorities, I think our first priority through all of this is safety. It's safe movement on the site, safe movement into the site, and we've had a lot of discussions in the community meetings with where students are coming from. So that's ingrained in our planning as we go forward. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the site design because we're just starting to look at how we're going to approach this. We're going to be developing concept plans, sharing them with Wells so that they can critique them based on the data that they've mined from all of their collection. So, but the main points that are driving our design are going to be providing fire access all the way around the existing building. We've had discussions with the fire marshal so that because the existing building is still there, the fire trucks have to get all the way around the building so that they could fight a fire if there were one in the new Patrick Henry. We're also made a conscious decision to maximize what was already in the project on the western side of the site. So there'll be community facilities such as a basketball court, an intermediate play area, along with a top lot that's right beside the rec center. Also a fitness circuit that has adult fitness equipment on it. There'll be landscaping on that site, so the corner of the site from the southwest side will appear as if the project were done. It's sort of, there's an area between where, if you've seen some of the earlier plans that had the athletic turf field, from there over, we're going to develop some parking strategies. So what's really driving us, there's a couple of things. The loop road that comes around, and because we have to do that, we're taking down the rec center, not just the gymnasium, but there's a couple of ancillary rooms and spaces that would come all the way back to where that last classroom wing stops. That'll allow us to have access into the school. We could determine which ways into the school are going to be the best for drop-off. But by taking the rec center down, putting the loop road in, then the other component is, you probably notice as you walk in here that the grade level entering the school is higher than the existing. You see the hill there. So we're going to have to navigate some way to grade the site so that we can have parking that allows accessible access into the building. So when we talk about parking, we're looking at two parking lots. The existing parking lot on the east side will remain. Then there'll be a new parking lot that will be off of this loop road. We're strategizing that we're going to have accessible parking in front of the rec center, accessible parking in front of the entry to the school, and then there's going to be parking for the strategy right now is parking for the new Patrick Henry will be the newer parking that we'll put over here. Douglas MacArthur probably doesn't need as much parking as we have on the east side, so it'll probably be designated Douglas MacArthur parking as well as some overflow for other things. We do have separate bus and car loading. As was pointed out, we got the bus loop for the new Patrick Henry in the back. There's the one that we were using as a temporary one in the front that we're going to remain and use that. Now we still have to use this, go through some testing and studying of how we're going to do the drop-offs. We have a loop road. Potentially it might be split between different times, that in one time cars will come in and drop off at one school, so the kids are on the right side of the car getting out, and then maybe come around the other way for the other school at a different time getting out on the correct side. So those are a lot of things that we're going to sort of come up with a lot of concept designs and test with Wells' database and knowledge of what they're seeing. So I think that's probably the biggest part of this project is the site. I'm going to also talk a little bit about the building, but the schedule for the site.
The demo of the gymnasium where the kids are mandatory by state law.
Wait, I'm still talking about the site. Hold on. I'm going to get to that. I want to share our anticipated schedule for the site. So we're starting design right now. In July, we're sending our first preliminary plan to the city to have them look at it. In August, we have our second submission back to the city. And then in November, as we talked about, we're going to Planning Commission, City Council, and then with their approval, we'll submit our final to the city. What we're hoping is that January 2020, we have a final approval of the DSUP amendment. Go to bid that January, award in February. There'll be construction on site from about February to June to do that work. We're going to be putting in parking lots, site lighting, and other attributes the site needs, hopefully to have a completion of June 2020. And then that would allow us to fit out the site before the Douglas MacArthur kids come. So the building scope is what you wanted to hear about. We're demolishing the rec center and the gymnasium. So knowing that, what we're going to do is we're going to convert the auditorium into a PE space.
Oh, no.
And what we're going to do is we're going to take the slope out, and it will be a level space. You can still have events in there, but it allows for phys ed. We're also going to, with the agreement with the city, we're going to do some upgrades, and we're going to put in a new fire alarm to increase the life safety. There are also a number of upgrades to some of the lighting systems. We're going to replace damaged ceiling tiles, repairs to the mechanical system, and then paint the building throughout so that it has a fresh look. What we're doing is repurposing a building that was a school as late as January 22nd, I guess, is when they moved out of that school. So it's not anticipated to do a lot inside the school, but those are the things that we're looking at doing. Our design work is started in earnest, and we've got about 5 months to get to permit, bid, and awarding the contract by September. We're hoping to start construction in October, which with a couple of months, we should be completing January of 2020. So that's our approach.
Why knock out the gym when you're going to demolish the whole
I'm sorry,
building?
can we make sure we have the mic beforehand? Because otherwise we can't capture. Thank you.
So why are we wasting money retrofitting the auditorium when you could just save the gym until you demolish the whole building? It doesn't make any sense to waste money like that.
Yeah, because we got to protect life safety, and the fire marshal says he's got to get a fire truck back to this building.
So let me explain.
When you put that
also.
retaining wall back there?
The biggest issue, one of the issues we had to look at the very beginning was the fact that this building is only fire rated according to, how the gym, how the rec center comes all the way almost to this building on the end?
8.5 feet. 8.5 feet.
Yeah, 8.5 feet from the edge of this building. And so you don't have the fire rating. If we were to keep the rec center, we would have to upgrade the entire facade of this building, costing many more millions of dollars than what it would have taken to do what we're doing. And the other issue is that it provides us the access all the way around the building so we can have a better traffic flow between the two parking lots. So there was definitely, there is sense to it, and it is cost effective, and that's the effect that we're making in terms of that change. The other thing is you're going to be using an auditorium that sits empty a lot of the times, and you're going to be using it as a multi-purpose space. And it's going to be a space about as big as this. It'll be more, maybe a little bit deeper. It'll be more space than the kids at Douglas MacArthur have now in their gym and multipurpose space. So we feel that it is a very reasonable approach and very cost-effective approach, and it's really going to meet the needs for that temporary occupancy.
With all due respect, Ms. Anthony, this was before your time. And as I pointed out before, when you put up the retaining wall in the fire department, can't get around the back of the school as we currently have.
No, this meets, this right here meets the fire department's requirements for.
Right there.
This meets the fire requirements. They can turn the truck around and move on back out.
As I pointed out to you, it's going to come back to hardship.
I'll entertain other questions. Well, here.
Yeah, quick one. Just for clarification. We could just do a quick rerun on schedule. I think I heard you say contract award for building renovations at the end of this calendar year. Could you revisit that for me, please?
Yeah, the building, we're trying to get started construction in October of this year and finish up January. It is intended to be ready before it's needed, so we can fit it out and shake it out and get everything ready.
Okay, so around about 3 to 4 months of renovations.
Yeah,
October to January, and then commencing site work on what date?
That would be, let's say, February 2020
through the summer. Then. Okay, that's all I needed. Thank you.
So I think that we have one more.
So can you address the safety and evacuation? That's a big concern, and it's been in every meeting that we've talked about. I appreciate that the fire marshal has been brought in and that we do need to do things. I mean, sometimes we do have to sacrifice areas as long as we have other areas to accommodate the exercise and the codes and the state regulations that we need to get our children to exercise. I don't hear that they're actually going to get the benefit that they're usually used to, the playing outside, the running around, the playgrounds. I'm not sure if I'm sure about that. So if you could address the safety, the evacuation of over 1,800 people on this site.
Well, I'll address that. So there has to be a complete site evacuation and emergency plan in order for us to even get a certificate of occupancy. So that will come after the building design and the site design, is completed, and we'll be, bringing those, plans to you when we get to that point. So that's a legal requirement, a safety requirement, and for ACPS, we have our own emergency codes for all the things associated with various types of sheltering and emergencies and those things. So that definitely is in the plan.
Okay, thank you. That's wonderful. Thank you.
Sure.
I appreciate that. So what about the safety side of being on a construction site, internal, I've heard things like asbestos, indoor air quality problems, lead paint, we can't just put paint on and all those things go away.
There was a study done for the building, and it's all encapsulated, so if we don't touch it, there's no risk. And we will have air quality testing on the building, even when the contractors are in there, and the contractors are aware of that condition because we'll give them the study when they go in there so that they don't disturb stuff that they shouldn't.
What about ongoing monitoring though? That's, in the building. This is an old building. This is, there's a reason why Patrick Henry was rebuilt. It's been sitting there closed for quite some time. I don't think it's been in use. So mold indoor air quality, all those things don't just go away.
That's, I guess, an operation.
So even before, what we've been doing over the last several months has been to do a complete environmental, evaluation of the building. It's been cleaned out. It's been, the insecticides happened. We're putting a new roof on. Well, not a new roof, but we're, covering the roof. We've, gone up into the ceiling to assess where the water intrusion issues have been. And so we're doing a lot of work prior to the renovation that happens to make sure that we've addressed, what is Dr. Hutchins talks about it, being dry, safe, and environmentally, appropriate. So there will be a lot of new flooring that's put in. There'll be some new lighting and ceiling tiles, and so we've tried to do all the upfront work over the last really 4 or 5 months to assess anything that had to be addressed with regard to water or mold or any of those types of issues.
And just one last question, and I'll hand it to you. So the other side of that is the operations and maintenance, which I am also very concerned at our Douglas MacArthur about the maintaining that facility while we are in it for the next year and a half. What is the intention for maintaining, having a proper maintenance plan that keeps all of these things intact while our kids are in this older building?
Well, along with all of the upgrading of the operation preventive maintenance and operation schedules for all of the division, that building will be included in all of the, in all of the inspections and operations and maintenance plans that we try to pursue for all of our buildings. So I'm not sure that really answers your question. Are we going to be doing something new? I think that we're going to be
something new that's junk, anything.
I'm in
that school weekly, and it's a hole. There's no soap, there's no water coming out of the faucets, the bathroom doors are broken, there's trash
Everywhere.
Where's this?
At MacArthur.
Okay.
It's a hole. And so when you say you're maintaining it, it makes me cry when I go in there and I see my kids have to go to the school. And it's just falling down. And you tell me you're going to make this is nice. It's a shithole now. My French. It is a dump. And now you're going to say, of course, it's going to put some fresh paint on it. But you're not maintaining the one that they're using now. How do we trust that you're going to maintain the one the next day? There's no water that comes out of the faucets. There's no soap. My son doesn't have air conditioning in his room. They say bring water and wear shorts. And he hasn't had it for the year. I don't trust that. I'm sorry, does anybody else in this room trust that? I can't believe people that doesn't trust that for 8 days.
Well, it starts off. Patrick Henry, by the way, was a big reconditioned in 1990. So with the lies that they told to get a brand new building, I love a brand new building. And I had to go do my research because I was unable to get information from anyone. This is before your time was there. But they're maintaining. They're starting to maintain.
They don't even clean it.
They are doing a better job. It always can be improved.
Okay,
And
Karen.
my kid was there.
Karen will see this.
My kid is there.
I tried to pick up trash the other day. We go there, we clean these.
My kid is there.
We can't even put garbage into the garbage can because they're overfull.
And I have to say this. Miss Covey, when she came in, she changed a lot of things at this building. It was worse before she got there. And it was very upsetting. Very upsetting. She did a tremendous job. Her staff did a tremendous job. Miss B, who used to be in the cafeteria, did a tremendous job. Zachary's a 6th grader at GW now. But Gabby's a 4th grader.
Well, I hear
They're making the most problem they're trying to do. So again, but again,
I
1990.
want to say to this mother that we hear you, and I apologize that your child feels like that you're going.
Because I'm there all the time. I volunteer there constantly, and the teachers are wonderful, and the staff is wonderful, and I've had some bad, but I've had good.
I agree.
But
My son's a 2nd grader, and this week at MacArthur, he told me he couldn't go to the bathroom because the boys' bathroom in the 2nd grade wing was not open. So I asked him to go to the 4th grade wing, and he said that bathroom, the boys' bathroom, was also not open. He has to walk across the school to the 1st first doing maintenance and go to the bathroom. This is the school that's supposed to be working right now. So my question is, are you reviewing the HVAC systems? Because the HVAC system we have at MacArthur doesn't work. She was just saying, they tell them to wear shorts or bring a coat. And I don't want that to go on when we come to a new school. If you're looking at everything, are we looking at everything? Is that part of the architect plan or the operations plan?
That's all of those things are being looked at, and that's being looked at.
Because it's not working at MacArthur right now.
We've had a lot of problems at MacArthur, but I understand, I think, Ray, is it your understanding that we're getting that new HVAC next?
It's up.
It's up, okay, it's up now. So, you know, we did have a compressor go down, we did have a problem ever since last year, and the principal fought very hard to make sure that we got the air before school ended this year when it wasn't really scheduled.
I just want to make sure moving forward that, you know, this is what we're dealing with now, that we don't have the same issue in the school we're going to.
Well, they're gonna really upgrade the old Patrick Henry.
So thank you.
Are there any other questions?
Okay. We'll see you, we'll provide.
Can I?
Okay.
In our last meeting, I asked you about the playgrounds, because the playgrounds, you know, some of the slides are boarded up and they're dangerous, and you talked about, well, since they weren't going to do a huge overhaul, there needed to be a study or something to get them fixed. They're still not fixed. It's been, you know,
Talking about the
It doesn't
hold on.
The current Douglas MacArthur is still boarded up.
I'm sorry, the current Douglas MacArthur.
The children play on it. They play
Yeah,
boards.
yeah, it's dangerous, and, you know.
Yeah, we did do a study, and we did identify a couple of pieces of equipment that were going to be replaced. Matter of fact, I think we did replace one, but we'll look at it. I'll find out tomorrow exactly, and if you could send me your email address, I'll let you know through principal copy exactly what we're going to do this year in order to, you know, provide. I know that we did look at it. We replaced one piece of equipment.
I don't recall that, but I know you did have estimates come in.
Yeah, we got pricing, and so I'll follow up with exactly what the status of that is.
It just seems frustrating when they're there every day, and months have gone by, and there's really no change. And it doesn't seem like that's a solid strategy.
Thank you.
Yeah, my biggest concern with Douglas MacArthur is due to the maintenance issue, and if we're moving into a school that's been not used for a long period of time, I really need the assurance that the HVAC systems will work, mold is cleaning up, that there is playground accessibility. Playgrounds at MacArthur, I was there the other day, there's boards with nails sticking out of them all over the ground. You can't even put them in the trash. I tried to pick them up. The trash barrels are full. I don't know how hard it would be to have somebody go out there that's maintaining the school to empty the trash on a daily basis.
Right, but like the garbage. Our kids are playing on garbage, and nobody's doing anything about it. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna sit here. My kids riding their bike. I said, oh, I'm just gonna pick up trash. Like, I can't put them anywhere.
No, that's the same experience that I've had multiple times.
And I feel horrible for my kids. I'm there all the time, and they're playing on garbage.
I have to say something. I hope that you've seen some improvement in the last week or so.
No. And we're there every day, Mrs. Wright. We're there every day.
So we have a team of contracted employees. We have a supervisor, and we've been talking a lot the last couple of weeks. And they have agreed that they'll have a person go out in the morning to do a walkthrough, and then again in the afternoon. Our challenge, and this is not to be meant to be an excuse, but our challenge is that the grounds are used by many other people than just MacArthur, and that in the evening, it's an open playground, it's an open space. So it's not just our kids and our staff, it's everybody else who comes to the MacArthur playground. So it is a big job, and it is a problem, but I want to assure you that I've spoken to the company that is in charge of our building. We've had several emails and communication, and actually just as recently as yesterday, to make that a priority. And I think it's just going to continue to get worse as the weather is nice and more people are on the playground. But it's up to the one engineer or one building custodian who's by himself in the day and the one person who comes on in the evening to do a walkthrough. And it shouldn't be up to parents and it shouldn't be up to children. And I apologize that you're seeing a problem with trash because, right, there's a lot of things that we can't do, but we can pick up trash.
But here's
So
the thing,
let's-
we come there literally every day. Our kids are riding their bikes there, go learning. We're there every day, and I see the whole campus is covered in clothes. And those are not people who are coming during the weekends. Those are students' clothes. And should they be left there? No. Is it the student's responsibility? Yes. I've dragged my own kids in. But those same clothes have been there, and they've been there for a week.
Yeah.
A week. The garbage has been there for a week. We come every day.
Okay, so I hear you. I want you to know that I'm addressing to the people that are responsible for taking care of it. The clothing, that's my own pet peeve. The clothing collection that we have at school, I don't want to monopolize the good people here this evening to talk about the lost and found, but it's a nightmare. But the trash needs to be taken care of, and I will come back to the staff again tomorrow to reiterate that. And actually, facilities has been involved in that conversation because it affects the drainage, it affects the entire playground if the trash isn't picked up.
And by the way, I've seen them at Home Depot buying stuff for the girls.
Thank you for bringing it to my attention again. So.
Yeah, 5 o'clock last night, closed everywhere, trash full, terrible situation. I was there at 5 o'clock.
Is this working?
Last question.
So, Ms. Covey, thank you, and I want to say that I would like to address this back to ACPS and keep the attention there, because ACPS and the school board and the city, I think are in charge of those contracts to maintain the facilities of the school district, and so I would like to bring that attention back to you and understand how you are going to maintain our facilities, because I do not see a track record, and I think that's why you hear these concerns from all these parents. That's why I'm showing up every day, even though these meetings are changed every week, and why my kids have to sit here with me because my husband's at work, but I'm taking the time to listen and understand where you're going with this, because the track record is not that you're not maintaining these facilities. A sink fell off the wall in one of the bathrooms at Douglas MacArthur. So why did that happen? You need to maintain these facilities. We are going into an old building. I do not see the track record as a positive. It's not happening. So ACPCS, or the Alexander City and the City Council needs to address this. It is not Ms. Covey's responsibility to find contracts to maintain this facility, or any of the other people. That's why we have the superintendent, that's why we have Alexandria City Public Schools. So that's the answer that we all want to hear. I have taken pictures of that slide that's broken every month for the last 6 months. It's boarded up, my kids play on it. I have not seen one piece of new equipment on the playground, and I walk through the halls myself, and I see how it's deteriorated. I'm not lying about a sink falling off the wall. My son got 27 stitches because of it.
Thank you. We'll provide an update to everybody in the summer. We'll try to give you plenty of notice as soon as we are at a point where we have some really good plans, and we'd like you all to come back. Thank you very much.
Excuse me, I have a question about this committee I've been hearing about.
About what?
A joint committee between MacArthur and Patrick Henry families. What is that about? How does one try to get on that committee?
So the Patrick Henry Advisory Committee that was in force when this site was being developed, we talked about how we would reconvene a committee that would pay attention to the issues associated with joint occupancy. And so there is a collaborative committee that actually met on Monday of this week. We invited all of the appointed advisory committees back. However, there are members of Douglas MacArthur that are they're on the committee for the coordination of this site. We'll also be creating a separate committee that's an advisory board and a design core group for the Douglas MacArthur Design in School, but if it's specific to the swing space and this site, Erica, what's the best way that someone can, all of the meetings are open, there's a committee, but they're all open meetings, so they are, people can come and make comment and listen to the advice and the recommendations and those types of things. Are there additional?
Well, I couldn't make it on Monday, but I'm just wondering, were people then just invited to be on the committee, or how?
People were invited to be on the committee, who were on the old committee, and then Douglas MacArthur, the principal, and asked people to be, involved in the committee then. You want to?
Yeah, sure.
That, Erica?
So because we already had the Patrick Henry advisory group and those members kind of established, we wanted to complement that with Douglas MacArthur parents. So we did ask the principal or her designate, the incoming PTA president, certain civic associations, so that it basically mimicked the setup that we had, and that those groups could work collaboratively on the dual occupancy, not just in this design process, but throughout their occupancy. And as Ms. Anthony said, those meetings are open to the public. They are for the committee to kind of discuss, but then there will be a community meeting kind of always coupled with those as per the collaborative committee's request.
Do we have the date for the next meeting? Because I only found out about it a few days before it happened the last time.
We do not have an exact date. We are working on it. We do anticipate something in July.
Can I just say one last thing about the maintenance issue, since we are moving into an older school? If you haven't picked this up yet, maintenance is such a big issue. It's the whole quality of the education experience of the facility just continues to be unmaintained. And so one thing I want you to take away is you're looking at the various studies that you've done. And I know that you have to do them in order to answer the various questions, is keep making this on the top of the list. It's an old building. There was a reason why people moved out of that building into a new building. So, we just don't want to experience the things that we've experienced at Douglas MacArthur. And again, I don't blame any of the folks there. The teachers are great, great experiences with them and interactions with them. But Alexandria Public Schools needs to do a better job of keeping on top of it as we look at this facility and revamping it for our kids to go to.
So thank you. We agree, and that's something that we've been working on since I came last year. Your children shouldn't be having to experience what they're experiencing in Douglas MacArthur now, whether it's a deferred maintenance issue, which has been going on for many, many years, or coming into this building. So we hear you, and we'll do something about it.
So I just wanted to speak about the old building. My children, I'm the principal of Patrick Henry. We were not in a dump. We were not in a dilapidated building. We loved that building. And we didn't realize how old the building was until we actually stepped foot in this brand new building. And that's when we were like, oh wow. So we didn't know. We kept it clean. Floors were beautiful all the time. It looked like you could ice skate off of them. We had our floors shine every night. We kept the walls clean. We decorated the building. We kept the windows clean. We took care of the building. And so we're actually excited that you do get a chance to get a new building. And we were in support of MacArthur moving in. The building, once again, if they're going to put renovations into the building's going to be great. We took care of that building. So I do want to say that. We didn't have these things falling off the wall. Everything was operational. Of course, we had some roof leaks and things like that every now and then, but that was because the building was built in the 1950s. And so what I do have to say, in just kind of in defense of ACPS, I'm very involved. I protect my children. And so if there was ever anything wrong that I thought needed a phone call, the ACPS staff and facilities did receive a text message or a phone call, and they were always very responsive to coming. So I do want to say that. And so I do want you to know you are moving in a building that was very well loved.
Ms. Anthony, may I have 20 seconds? If you don't mind, I'll be brief. You asked about this thing called a collaborative committee. design. I want you to know that there are a number of us that are on that committee that are here tonight. And our purpose of being here tonight is to listen. We want to understand what your concerns are. Because we feel like what we can do is we can take that into a slightly different forum where we actually can go one-on-one with the design team or the superintendent's team. Our job is to facilitate discussion of problems, and the superintendent's charge to us was, don't bring me problems, help me find solutions. So I want you to just have an appreciation that there's a bunch of us that care a lot. Myself and Mark and a few others have been here since the inception of the Patrick Henry project, but now we're being asked to help on sort of the reutilization, repurposing of the old facility. It was very enlightening to me to hear your concerns, and I want you to know
This is not new information.
we're gonna, well, it is for us. So we're gonna capture as much of it as we can and carry the message on your behalf. And if we don't do that job well, this is where you'll be able to kind of air it out. So there's about 15 of us on this committee, as Ms. Danny pointed out, by invitation from the superintendent. But we think our job is important, and we're real serious about getting it right. So the new facility will be as good as it can possibly be, because that's what we think our job is. Just wanted to put in a little public service plug for the committee. And feel free to approach me with questions. I'm not a chairman or anything, just a member. But I've lived through the process, and I think it gets quite challenging.
Thanks, Mike.
All I got.
Thank you.